Good evening and welcome to live coverage of the final round of the RWB International with RRL Audi TT Coalition Cup live here this evening from Zandvoort in the Netherlands. I'm Rob Lomas and I will be taking you through the final round of the season here. We're currently looking at Ian Paskin as he heads through the Tarzanbocht. Now we're looking at Martin Hughes in his car. Currently just in the last few minutes of qualifying here at Zandvoort. We see Martin coming out of the Arie Luijendijk box onto the pit straight and goes up into second place on the grid. Currently now looking at John D in his car. Of course, this is based on the TTRS with the 5-cylinder engine that ran in the VLN back in the day, now the Nürburgring Langstrecken series. So they are quick old cars, these. And it's also, you wouldn't believe it if you've actually, just by looking at it, but it's also front-wheel drive. So very, very sharp handling bits of kit these are. Now we see Radek Pavlicek coming through the S's now. The Rob Slotemacher box into Schävlach, coming through the fast fourth gear right-hander. Massive viewing banks on the outside there. Before the circuit was rebuilt to Formula One standards. A very, very popular place to get photographs of the cars. So that's the end of qualifying here at Zandvoort. It's Radek Pavlicek from Martin Hughes, Dirk Gretschel, Clive Britton, BGB British, RWB Helmer, RWB Rigel, Mad Al, Nigel Wood and John D rounding out the top 10. Ian Paskin is in 11th place from Pavel Bogdan. Timo Konieczny is in 13th ahead of Rich Jones, Walt Graves, Andre Kratochvil, Giorgio Minga, and in rounding out the field in 18th place is unfortunate, I couldn't quite see the driver's name. Apologies for that. Got a short little 2-minute warm-up here for any drivers who just want to get maybe another lap in. Just tweak the tyre pressures, tweak the setup somewhat ahead of the first of two races this evening. The first race is the shorter of the two races at just 20 minutes. And then the second race this evening, a little bit longer, at 40 minutes. Currently looking at Dirk Gretschel. Dirk coming into this as the championship leader. Another good qualifying from the German driver. Comes through Gerlachbocht and into this left-hand hairpin here at Hugenholzbocht and up Hunsrück towards the Rob Slotemacher box. He comes now and into Schävlach. Stunning bit of circuit that, and then it's into the Masters box here where it deviates somewhat from the old original circuit, which is now actually a holiday park, but you can still just about see the outline of where it used to be. Coming through box 9, box 10. Here is Dirk Gretschel onto the back straight now, heading up to the Hans Ernst box. He comes now into this tight 90-degree right-hander, almost immediately into a long 180-degree left-hander. And then it's simply a case of the last couple of corners. Kumo here. And then it's the Arie Luijendijk box to round out the lap. And that is a lap at Zandvoort. can actually see almost the escape road, or access road rather, excuse me, in the background, which is also was actually in fact part of the old pitch straight there. The current iteration of the pitch straight at Zandvoort being a fair bit shorter than it was back then. The drivers are just lining up on the grid now, with about 30 seconds or so till the lights come on for the start of the opening race this evening. And if this is anything like the racing at Indianapolis, we should be in for a cracking race indeed. Lights are on at the moment. And we go green now. RWB helmet, I think, has already actually been given a penalty for a jump start. I think I just saw a flash up on the screen. It's a good, I was going to say a clean start from everyone. There's someone on the grass there in the background who's just gone into the wall there on the side of the track as they all come through the Tarzan box. Now we're looking at Martin Hughes in third place. He's got Radek Pavlicek just ahead of him because Dirk Gretschel's had a fantastic start and is leading the race at the moment, is the championship leader. We're currently looking at this battle here between Nigel Wood, Maddow, Timo Konieczny, Rich Jones, Walt Graves, as they all try and sort themselves out. We're going to maybe go too wide. In fact, we are too wide through the Rob Slotemacher box between Rich Jones and Timo Konieczny. They head down the hill into Scheerblach now. Wondering if it might have been RWB Helmet. Helmet who was having issues earlier on. He's dropped right down to 17th place at the moment. Just ahead of Tuka Valentin, excuse me. In fact, Helmet's actually down to last now. He's currently on board with Radek Pavlicek as he tries to find a way past Dirk Gretschel in the TT here. Dirk taking a very quick line through the first part of the Hans-Ernst-Bocht and almost maybe slightly sacrificing the latter part of the corner. Coming through the Arie Luyendyk box now, back onto the pitch straight here at Zandvoort they come. There's someone going very wide there in the background. Can't quite tell who that was, unfortunately. Hard on the brakes now into turn one. It's still Gretschel, Pavlicek. Clive Britton's just moved up to third, ahead of Martin Hughes. John D has just got past RWB Rigel, I've noticed, and is having a very good scrap indeed, these two are. And you've also got Bogdan and Paskin and even Graves joining in the fun as well. So this could be a very tasty battle indeed to keep an eye on the next few laps. It was Tuka Vatalin, excuse me, so who was got past Helmet on the opening lap there. Currently on board with RWB Rigel at the moment though, as he tries to chase down John D. And meanwhile, back at the front of the field, it's still Dirk Gretschel leading from Radek Pavlicek. Coming out of Bot 10 now and up towards the Hans-Ernst-Bocht. They come now. Zandvoort, very old school circuit indeed, in that it's really quite narrow, and also the track limits are mainly green for the most part, in that they're grass and you don't have the masses of tarmac runoff area like you sometimes get at certainly quite a lot of the newer circuits in this day and age. Currently looking at John D and RWB Rigel now as they come down the pitch straight once again. Is Rigel going to have a look around the outside? He is, you know, at Tarzan. John D still able to hold on as they head into Gerlachbocht and into the Hugenholzbocht now. Of course, one area where this does differ from the current iteration of Zandvoort is the fact that there's actually quite a lot of banking now at the not only at the Hugenholtz box, but also on the Arie Luijendijk box as well. So that's something to bear in mind here. Coming up towards Masters box now. A fast kink, and then into the tight box 9 and box 10, where it's a little bit difficult to actually try and find your braking marker. I find you don't have much in the way of visual references you can potentially use for braking at that section of the circuit, so it's definitely a tricky area track. Meanwhile, we're looking at Maddow and Rich Jones. Jones just in front there, maybe a slight tap from Al, I'm not sure, but these two are still hard at it as there's someone pulling over there, maybe with a problem of some kind. In fact, it might be Konieczny because he's dropped down a good few places. So we'll keep an eye on that for you as Al is well and truly in the slipstream of Rich's car now. He actually seems to be on the move again, and Al sends it up the inside. Jones running a little bit wide there, and that means that Mad Al has got up into 12th place. Back to the battle for the lead between Dirk Gretschel, Radek Pavlicek, and now Clive Britton, because these two are doing something we also saw last week actually at Indianapolis. They're holding each other up, and in turn this is letting Clive also join in the fun as well. Dirk taking a slightly wider line there through box 9, heading into box 10 now. And slightly wider, try and get best possible exit onto the back straight, but Radek looking awfully close indeed. He's going to have a little look at the Hans Ernst spot. Not quite close enough though, so definitely trying to find a way through, but not quite able to at the moment. Heading into the Arie Luijendijk box now. Such is the amount of aero on these cars, they're absolutely flat through there. Heading down the pit straight now. Radek not quite close enough. In Zandvoort, there are really only two proper overtaking opportunities, so to speak, one of which being Tarzan box, which we've just seen them go round, and the other being the Hans Ernst box. You can do it at Scheervlak, but you do need the person you're racing to be very, very cooperative indeed, which is and can be a lot easier said than done. Both up into 6th gear now, down 2 gears, down to 4th for Scheervlak. Through now back into the Masters box and onto the more of the newer part of the circuit from when it was redeveloped in the and extended actually in the late 1990s. The circuit ran into some financial difficulties during the mid-1980s, so they had to sell off a fair portion of it. And you can just see the exit of the link road, which is actually forms the shortcut loop for the national circuits. They did at least get the chance to keep Tarzan box and some of those other great corners like Rob Slotemacher box and Scheervlak, and they didn't sell that part off. It would be a true shame if they had. Battle for 10th place at the moment between Walt Graves and Nigel Woods. Now we're looking at a battle between Clive Britton and Radek Pavlicek, and Dirk Gretschel as well. Coming through Gerlach box now into the Hugenholz box. Try and get the best possible exit out of here. Of course, as a true test of driver skill, it is a fixed setup on these cars as well. So you can't change your, for example, your suspension spring rates, your anti-roll bar stiffness and that. So a lot of it is down to driver skill, which is great. Dirk takes a lot of curb there at box 9. Is Radek going to be able to have a look? Going to have to go the long way round if he is. And is he going to be close enough this time by for a look at the Hans Ernst box? Again, not quite. Hans Ernst box. It's looking like a U-piece. See John D and Pavel Bogdan racing away. And Pavel getting past John D to go up into 7th place. Battle for the lead coming down the pit straight again now. And hard on the brakes into the Tarzan box. They come. Just a couple of attempts in it. It's been like this all race so far between Dirk Gretschel and Radek Pavlicek. Absolutely fantastic racing. They pulled a good 2.5 seconds on Martin Hughes, who is in 4th place, just ahead of BGB British and RWB Rigel. Bogdan 7th, John D 8th, Paskin 9th, Wood 10th, Graves 11th, Al 12th, Jones. So RWB Charger is currently in 13th, I believe. Then Kratochvil, Minga, Konieczny, Helmet, and took Vatlin, rounding out the field of 18 here. Radek still not quite close enough to get past Dirk Gretschel there. And if you're just tuning in, they have been like this for the entire race. Thus far. Coming on board with Dirk Gretschel at the moment. Now focusing on Pavlicek once more. If anyone's wondering why we're talking about this, the same drivers here, well, we've seen quite a lot of them, it's because we're running the Auto Director tonight, so I have no control over the cameras. Looking at Nigel Wood and Walt Graves. And speaking of which, RWB Charger has joined us here in the commentary box. Evening.
Hey Rob, how you going?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm not racing actually. That's R Jones.
Oh, sorry about that. I do apologise. It's
that's okay. It's Rapster that's racing there.
Ah, fair enough. Cheers. Yes. Currently looking at BGB British at the moment, battling away with Martin Hughes for 4th place here. Coming through the newer part of the circuit. Only really built in the last 20 or so years. Just over 20 years ago, I think. It was built in 1999. Currently battling away as they come through the Hans Ernst box, which you can find something of a similar shape in the plumbing aisle of your local DIY store of choice, as Paskin makes a little bit of a mistake there, and that allows Nigel Wood to go up into 9th place at the exit of the Hans Ernst box. Now back to the battle for the lead between Dirk Gretschel and Radek Pavlicek and Clive Britton. And it genuinely has been like this for the entire race between these three. They have pretty much checked out, as we see Walt Graves and Mad Al battling for position as they head into Tarzan. Mad Al not quite close enough to be able to get the position from Walt there. Currently in 12th place at the moment. Heading up to the Hugenholtz box now and go back to the lead again because Radek is as close as he has been to the rear wing and rear diffuser of Dirk Gretschel. And coming through Shevlak now.
I think we lost you there, Rob.
Pictures have frozen, so do bear with me one sec.
Yep, you're back.
Oh, cheers. And back to see Dirk and Radek side by side as they head into the Hans Ernst box. Dirk putting up a very strong defence indeed, and this is allowing Clive Britton to get even closer to the back of Radek Pavlicek as they come up to Kumo now and towards the Ari Leyendijk box once again. Coming through here now. See Radek, we're on board for him now, really working the wheel there to keep the front end tucked in through the corner. He's in the draft of Gretschel's car. Gretschel going to the inside, taking the defensive line. Again, not quite close enough. Gretschel maybe running a little bit wide though then, but Pavlicek not able to close up enough. Coming back through Gerlach box and into the Hugenholtz box once more. On lap 10 here at Zandvoort, just a few minutes or so to go. Heading up through the Rob Slotemacher box now into Shevlak, and they're still fairly close. Gap has increased slightly to around 0.3 of a second, but coming up into Masters box now, the track does turn a bit to the left there for the corner. It's quite fast into box 9 here, heading up into box 10 now. Still line astern and still pushing like crazy as they head down the back straight once more into the Hans Ernst box. Radek once again not quite close enough. Should be time for 2 more laps here. It's going to be a case of who's got the freshest tyres. Meanwhile, a little bit further down the field, RWB Helmet has passed Tuk Vatilin for 17th place. 6.7 seconds between him and Konieczny at the moment. Konieczny being in 16th place, coming down the pit straight once again. Pavlicek still not quite close enough, trying to force Dirk Gretschel, the championship leader, heading into the final round, into a mistake, but a mistake doesn't appear to be coming from Dirk at the moment. Heading back up the hill now through on the old traditional parts of the Grand Prix circuit. Part of the track that's been used ever since it was first built, as Clive Britton has a little bit of a moment there on the way into Shevlak. Coming up the hill out there now into Masters box once more. Dirk taking a fair bit of curb on the inside there. Is Radek going to have a look up the inside? No, but there's not even a couple of attempts in it, realistically speaking, between Radek and Clive at the moment. Is Clive maybe going to try and have a go on the run into the Hans Ernst box? Not quite. Eyes must be starting to go for these three at the moment, but they are still pushing like crazy. The gap between Clive Britton and BGB British in 4th place is now actually up to 4.4 seconds, as Timo Konieczny has passed Minga somewhere on the circuit for 15th place, although Minga has actually just reclaimed 15th from Timo Konieczny, heading into what is likely to be the final lap of the race here tonight. Still only 0.3 of a second in it between Dirk Gretschel and Radek Pavlicek. Both lapping in the 143s, around the 143.8 mark. As Mad Al has just got past Ian Paskin for 11th place. Paskin still, though, right on the back of Mad Al's car. It's Walt Graves just in front of them at the Hugenholtz box. Meanwhile, in the battle for the lead, coming into the Masters box now, we're still looking at Dirk Gretschel, Radek Pavlicek, and Clive Britton. Is Radek going to have a look this time around? Not quite. Gap's still less than 0.2 of a second between these two, coming through box 10 now, heading up towards the Hans Ernst box. Radek, I think, has made a little bit of a mistake there on the exit of box 10, and that's bringing Clive Britton into it. They're both side by side. This is fantastic news for Dirk, and Clive has actually just got Radek for 2nd place on the final lap of the race, we presume, at the Hans Ernst box, coming up to Kumo box now. And into the Ari Leindijk box they come. It's going to be Dirk Gretschel in the lead of the race. He's trying to break the toe of Clive Britton and wins the opening round here at Zandvoort. Clive Britton 2nd, Pavlicek 3rd, BGB British in 4th place there, just ahead of Martin Hughes and RWB Rigel. Is Pavel Bogdan and John D in 7th and 8th, with Wood and Graves rounding out the top 10 from Mad Al, Ian Paskin, Rich Jones. Andrei Kratoshvili, is going to come home in 14th place, just ahead of Giorgio Minga and Timo Konieczny. RWB Helmet in 17th place after getting penalised for a jump start. And here's Ilna Tukvatalin, just coming out the Ari Leindijk box now to come home in 18th place. Oof. What a race. Once again, Clive Britton with the fastest lap of the race there. A 1:43.5. And Dirk Gretschel with the race win. So that was the opening race here at Zandvoort this evening. The next race is the longer of the two races, 40 minutes. And there will be pit stops involved as well. So strategy is going to play a very, very big role indeed in what happens on track, as we saw just last week, in fact, at Indianapolis. So this is going to be very interesting indeed. Just waiting for the start of the final race of the season tonight. Should be another absolute cracker indeed. If the previous race this evening was anything to go by, so this should be very, very good fun indeed. I'm trying to see if I can actually find something about the car. But the big Audi TTRS was helped by the fact that Audi Sport had a fairly sizable parts bin in the factory, so they were able to take a fair few things actually from the GT3 car. So 390 brake horsepower going through the front wheels, and all courtesy of a 2.5 litre 5-cylinder engine, and built by Quattro Guimbahai. And we are now back at Zandvoort, looking at the pit garages before they were refurbished for the Grand Prix. You're looking at Dirk Gretschel now in the warm-up here. The headlights are on. The sun is setting. This is going to be one hell of a way to decide the championship. Of course, to also give you some idea just how potent this thing is, it actually produces up to £1,500 of downforce, and on the Nordschleife in the VLN, it was only around 6 seconds or so slower than the full-on GT3 spec R8 LMS. So it is a properly serious car indeed, and it even won a VLN race overall. I think Frank Bieler was one of the drivers of the car, held in frankly abysmal weather conditions, and they won the race on countback as the scoreboard was turned back a lap, and Fuss, they went on to... Fuss actually won overall. So that's how quick this thing really is. It is a phenomenal car. So just waiting, getting ready to head onto the grid now. And get set for the final race of the season here at Zandvoort. And of course, just to spice things up somewhat, it's a reverse grid as well, so in about 20 seconds or so time, I will do a quick run through of the top 10 for you. Took Vaseline, Helmet, Minga, Kratochville, Jones, Paskin, Al, Graves, Wood and John D rounding out the top 10. Fortunately, I think Timo Konieczny is not on the grid, and we're away here at Zandvoort. Everyone having a cleaner start than last time. No penalties this time around. And everyone is pretty much everyone's almost side by side heading through the Tarzan box here on the opening lap. It's RWB Helmet who has pulled into an early lead ahead of Jones, Kratochvil, Paskin and Minga. Martin Hughes has made his way up into 13th place so far. Pavlicek is battling away with BGB British, meanwhile, for 15th. All settling down somewhat now. In fact, Clive Britton and Martin Hughes we are looking at the moment. We're currently looking at the back of Clive Britton's car. You can see Martin Hughes there as well. The sun slowly setting in the background here at Zandvoort. Heading into Masters box for the first time and then into box 9 and box 10. As Kratochvil's just got past Paskin for 3rd place. Heading through box 10 now. Coming down the back straight towards the Hans Ernst box for the first time this evening. Massive scrap going on between... Ooh, a little bit of contact there between both of the Lone Wolf Racing drivers, I think. That's just John D having a big old moment on the way into the Hans Ernst box, cutting the first part of the corner and then promptly sliding in front of one of the other cars and then getting punted into the wall. So no doubt that will be looked at. Meanwhile, we're currently looking at a battle for 13th between BGB British and Radek Pavlicek. Now we're looking at Ian Paskin and Mad Al. Mad Al currently in 5th place at the moment. Just behind Paskin. Big old scrap going on in front between Kratochvil and Paskin, which is going to be fantastic news for Mad Al as he can close onto the back of this little group here. Walt Graves in 6th place, just ahead of Minga and Woods, with Pavel Bogdan and RWB Rigel rounding out the top 10, coming through Shavelak now. All pretty clean through there. Through the Masters box and into box 9. There's Graves having a little look, maybe putting a move on Mad Al, not quite close enough though, as Paskin and Kratochvil are still racing each other for 3rd place and thus allowing Mad Al to be on the coattails of these two. Heading through the Hans Ernst box now, once again, and up towards Kumo box. We're currently looking at Clive Britton and RWB Rigel still racing away here. Clive not quite able to get the job done at Kumo box, which is bringing Martin Hughes into the mix here as well. Both side by side as they come through the Ari Lyndike box and heading down the pitch straight once more. Two fairly large groups of cars here. Clive's got past RWB Rigel and Martin Hughes also slides past on the inside up at Tarzan. So that means that Martin Hughes is now up into 11th place. Clive Britton's already up into 10th. Heading up through the Rob Slopemaker box and towards Kevlak once more. Battle still raging away here, as you can see. Rigel's just lost another position to BGB British, and they are still racing, battling away there in the background, just changing on such a constant basis. We might have a bit of a job keeping up here. Anyone going to be bold enough to have a look this time? Pavlicek and British still racing each other, some going very wide in the background there. Couldn't quite tell who that was, unfortunately. Come round the Ari Lyondike box once more for the start of another lap, and we see Wood coming into the pits for his pit stop. Very, very early indeed. Nigel and Hughes still racing away here. But with some absolutely phenomenal drivers still behind them. Coming through now as Nigel Wood has been given a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Very, very costly indeed, the decision to try and make an early pit stop, get some clear track. May have just backfired in some style for Nigel Wood. Not going to do his chances much good at all here. Clive Britton were on board with battling away with Andre Kratochvil. Clive Britton having a look up the inside into Bok 10 and getting the job done. So Clive Britton is now up into 8th place. Kratochvil just dropping down to 9th. Still Helmet Jones, Al Paskin, who's just been given a slowdown penalty for track limits abuse as well, for good measure. And yet again, so that's going to hurt his chances of remaining in 4th place just a wee bit. As BGB British and Martin Hughes here are still battling away. There's less than a tenth of a second between them. It's the battle for 11th place at the moment, heading up towards the Hugenholz box once more. Still pretty much side by side as well for good measure. Cracking racing once again from these two. And heading up through the Rob Slotemacher box now and towards Shavlak once more. Battle raging on here between Hughes and Pavlicek. Pavlicek in 12th place, Hughes in 13th, Gretschel in 14th. Now looking at the battle here between Walt Graves and Giorgio Minga, as they come up to the Hans Ernst box now. Now looking at RWB Rigel and Andre Kratochvil. Oh, so unfortunately there's been a bit of collision there. And that's RWB Rigel dropping down a few positions. There's Took Vatalin there claiming 15th place, so RWB Rigel collected unfortunately by another driver. Won't be happy about that. About here between Ian Paskin and Mad Owl. Ian Paskin's going to send it up the inside into Tarzan box and gets the position very nicely indeed on Mad Owl. So Paskin is now up into 3rd place and Mad Owl in 4th. See, took Vaseline there. A little bit of contact with John D. As they the earlier stages of the lap here. And now we see Giorgio Minga battling away with Clive Britton. Clive, who's been phenomenally strong in the longer races of the evening. He's going to send it up the inside into box 9 and gets the position nicely indeed. Oh, a bit of a collision there with hit there from Giorgio Mingo. He's lost positions to Graves, Bogdan, Hughes, Kratoshvili. British, there's a whole group of them there. He's letting them through, I think. He's let Pavlicek's gone past as well, excuse me. So that's for 11th place for Radek Pavlicek. Now we're looking at a battle here between Andrei Kratoshvili and BGB British. We can just about see in the background here. And 3 wide down the pitch straight. British, Kratoshvili, Graves coming off worse there, dropping down to 10th as BGB British moves up into 8th and Kratoshvili stays in 9th. As cracking driving from all 3 of them to ensure that all 3 cars stayed on the circuit. So fair dues to them. Coming up through the Rob Slopemaker box once more is this battle between Andrei Kratoshvili and Walt Graves. Graves clearly wanting his 9th place back. And to get back onto the battle here as Pavlicek goes past him for 10th. Here we see Clive Britton and Mad Al heading towards the Hans Ernst box now, coming up side by side. And Clive Britton getting the position there. We're looking at Radek Pavlicek at the moment battling Walt Graves. Graves going off the circuit there and losing a couple of positions. Now we're looking at Dirk Gretschel right on the back of Pavlicek once more. So this is going to be interesting to see how hard these two race each other. Radek in the draft of Walt Graves, not quite close enough to be able to pull off an overtake this time around. Heading through Gerlach box into Hugenholtz box now. Everyone keeping it fairly clean and tidy through that part of the circuit at the moment. Heading up through the Rob Slopemaker box and into Shvirlak, excuse me. So that's going to be very interesting indeed. So on board with Pavlicek at the moment. Still got Graves in front of him. Graves in the Audi Quattro liveried machine. A homage to the famous Group B rally car from the 1980s, which, like this, also had a turbocharged 5-cylinder engine. As Clive in the slipstream now of Paskin, not quite close enough to send up the inside into turn 1, but Paskin makes a bit of a mistake, and that's enough for Clive to get 3rd place. So fantastic job indeed from Clive Britton to make his way up into 3rd place there. Battle still raging away between Martin Hughes, Mad Al and BGB British as they come through the Rob Slopemaker box now. Through Shvirlak once more. Neither driver wanted to make a mistake. They come through box 9. This is battle for second place at the moment between Rich Jones and Clive Britton, with Ian Paskin in hot pursuit. So coming to the Hans Ernst box now. Is Clive going to have a look up the inside? No, not quite able to do it there. Through Kumo once more. And then back into the Ari Lindijk box. And through they go to complete yet another lap here at Zandvoort, nearly halfway into the race. Do a rundown of the top 10 and well, of the field, excuse me, for you at the end. Jones and Britton battling away there. Paskin still in 4th place as we speak. But here we see the battle for seconds. Up through the Rob Slotemacher box now. That section of track, it's almost as if you just keep turning and treat the last part of the Rob Slotemacher box and Shavlak as one corner. Oh, you're having to try and trail brake to get the car from 6th gear back down into 4th. A lot of drivers going for a later strategy here in terms of pitting by the looks of things. Probably keen to not emulate what Wood did, which is get a penalty. As Jones has just lost 2nd position there to Clive Britton. So very, very strong run indeed from Clive to go up into 2nd place. No one able to go for here at the moment. Rich is going to have a look though, and indeed does get back past at Tarzan. So Jones now up into 2nd place once more. Pavlicek and Graves battling away meanwhile a little bit further down the field. And we see Pavlicek getting incredibly close to Graves' car there. Trying to put the pressure on somewhat. Shavlak once more. Battle still fantastically close. Maybe gapping Dirk Gretschel ever so slightly, but it's not an awful lot in it still. See Clive Britton and Rich Jones still racing for 2nd place here this evening. RWB helmet has cleared off into the distance, what with the benefit of having clear track and all that. See Graves, Pavlicek still battling away. Pavlicek still unable to find a way past Graves. Also presumably not wanting to try and cook the tyres of his car. Faint there as if he's going to pull into the pits, but pulls away again from Clive Britton. Jones doing the same thing as well. So I think Giorgio Minga is in the pits as well. So that's going to be interesting. See where he comes out back into the race. I'd imagine he has enough in hand on. Took for Tulin, which he doesn't. But Wood, on the other hand, he should have enough in hand to be able to exit the pits still in front of him. And in fact, he doesn't yet as well. So quite a long stop this for Giorgio Minga. Currently on board with Martin Hughes at the moment. Having a look at Pavel Bogdan. Greenstone's having a look at Ian Paskin. So very, very close indeed. Oh, someone going off in front of them there. That's Paskin. In fact, it is indeed Paskin who's gone off big time at the Hans Ernst box and has cut the track to a degree there. You can see him just in front of Mad Al and Kratoshvili, and this battle between Graves and Pavlicek. Battle here for 10th place at the moment. Heading down into Tarzan box once more. Just over halfway through the race here at Zandvoort, it's RWB Helmet leading from Clive Britton. Rich Jones in third place ahead of Pavel Bogdan. Martin Hughes, BGB British, Andrei Kratoshvili, Mad Al, Walt Graves and Radek Pavlicek are your top 10 this evening so far. Dirk Gretschel is in 11th place ahead of RWB Rigel, John D, Ian Paskin, who has just come into the pits. Wood took for Tulin and Minga. Rounding out the field in 17th place with Timo Konieczny with a did not start, as Paskin has just been given a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Currently down in 14th place, but that is going to pretty much end his chances of a good result to round out the season. Still battling away here between Radek Pavlicek and Walt Graves. Everyone, I think, predominantly going for later pit stops instead of pitting early like we have seen one or two drivers do. Aim being to stay out as long as you can now, look after the tyres, look after the car, and then send it towards the end. I think that's what a lot of these drivers are focusing on at the moment. Currently battle here for 10th place between Mad Al and Radek Pavlicek. Pavlicek still trying to find a way around past Mad Al, and Pavlicek is struggling to, as we speak, having to back out of it a bit there. Right on the back of Mad Al's car. Through Masters box they come and into box 9. And box 10. Looking at the Hans Ernst box now, we're looking at Pavel Bogdan at the moment. Just behind him is Martin Hughes. And coming through the long Ari Leindyke box once more. They come indeed. And hard on the brakes again for Tarzan. Jones, I think, running a little wide there. So that's allowing Bogdan to catch up to the back of Jones and bring him into this fight as well, which now has Jones, Bogdan, Hughes and British in it. Coming up through the Rob Slotemacher box and towards Shavlak once again. Hard on the brakes for the fast downhill right-hander, which has been a part of the circuit for many a year now. In fact, more than just many a year, many a decade, going back even to the late 1940s. Indeed, it is 1948, so very good indeed. Martin Hughes still trying to find a way past Pavel Bogdan. Bogdan going defensive once more and able to keep hold of 4th place. Been phenomenal racing so far this evening. Coming through the Ari Leindyke box now. Hughes right on the back of BGB. So excuse me, Pavel Bogdan at the moment. Bogdan moving over to defend from Hughes, with Jones in 3rd place still. It is still Helmet from Britain up front. And then this battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Once more through the Rob Slotemacher box and into Shavlak. Once again, stunning section of circuits. Incredible flow to it. Now looking at the battle in the background between BGB British and Martin Hughes, as Pavel Bogdan gets in front of Rich Jones briefly, but Jones gets the position back at the exit of box 10. So Bogdan back down into 4th place. You can see the battle behind them. Hughes and British. And this battle between Jones and Bogdan is bringing these two well and truly back into the mix. Back onto the pitch straight once more to commence another lap. Tuk Vasilin is currently showing as being 2 laps down, so whether he's had some kind of technical issue, I'm not 100% sure. But jolly unfortunate that has happened. Bogdan is now back in front of Rich Jones, and Martin Hughes has decided to join in the fun, I think it's fair to say. So there's not an awful lot between them, so this should be good indeed. Havlicek up into 9th place now, ahead of Gretschel. Interesting to see when the pit stops happen, if they do, who comes in when. Might well be the deciding factor this evening as well, so that's going to be definitely something to keep an eye on. Bit of a tap, methinks, from Hughes there on the back of Jones. So no doubt that will be getting looked at by the stewards. So it's that. Meanwhile, Hughes right in the slipstream of Jones. He's going to have to go around the outside. A bit of hip and shoulder action there between them. Jones putting up a very, very stout defence indeed. He's got the inside line here for Gerlach Bocht. Hughes is going to have the inside for Hugenholtz though. And that sees Hughes now ahead of Jones. BGB British a few tenths further back. Sees battle raging away here between Martin Hughes and Rich Jones. Very physical indeed. Mind you, what with it being the final race of the season, there is definitely very much a schools out for summer vibe on track here, except they are still racing each other, everyone is, as hard as possible, which you really do love to see as well. Currently looking at the battle between Walt Graves and Andre Kratochvil. Graves we're currently with at the moment in 11th place. Kratochvil just in front of him there in 10th. Gretschel is still in 9th place at the moment, just ahead of these two, but behind Rigel and Havlicek. So that's going to be another interesting one to keep an eye on. Dream past the pits once more. Back onto the brakes again for Tarzan. And up the hill now. Back down again. Through Hugenholtz Bocht and into the Rob Slotemacher box now. That battle, we cut back to the battle for 4th place between Martin Hughes and Rich Jones. Jones still there on the gearbox of Martin Hughes at the moment. Remains to be seen how this plays out. Used to, of course, be a longer circuit. Used to be 4.1 kilometers long. It's now 4.2, but it's in a much more confined area than what it used to be. And in fact, I mentioned the old club circuit layout earlier on, which doesn't actually exist anymore since they've rebuilt it for the Grand Prix. But from 1989 to 1998, that was the length of, well, that was in fact the entirety, not just the length of, the Zandvoort circuit. Up until 1989, used to have corners such as Boss Eat, Panorama Bocht, Tunneloost, and the Marlborough Bocht chicane, where Hondenvlak used to be. Names that are very, very sadly consigned to the history books. Just over 5 minutes to go here at Zandvoort. Looking at the battle between Walt Graves and Andre Kratochvil for 10th place at the moment. Graves maybe having a little bit of a moment there on the way into box 9. Heading through box 10 now. Into the Hans Ernst box once more. Now looking at Kratochvil in his attempt to try and catch Dirk Gretschel. And very few pit stops made so far in this race as well, which has been very interesting to note. Everyone trying to stay out and fuel save, so lift and coast, and that as Graves goes up the inside to 10th place from Kratochvil and holds on to it as well. I thought for a moment he's going to actually overshoot the Tarzan box and end up in the gravel, but he managed to get the thing stopped. Not quite sure how he managed to get the thing stopped, admittedly, but did a very, very good job indeed, did Walt Graves. So Graves now up into 10th place here. We come through Scheerblach once more. See big old dunes in the background. Popular viewing banks for spectators. Circuit which very much follows the lay of the land here at Zandvoort. It's not the hilliest circuit in the world, but there is still a moderate amount of elevation difference. The track follows the natural contours of the dunes in the North Sea coastal resorts. Which is why when it gets a bit windy, it can actually cause a bit of an issue here, much the same as it was in the Estoril as well. And meanwhile, Pavel Bogdan is showing as being in the pits, I believe. Saw a flash of green at the exit of the pit lane, and I think that might well, unfortunately, have been Pavel's car. So very, very unfortunate indeed. Currently looking at Andre Kratochvil taking a very wise line on the outside of Hugenholtz box, with Walt Graves there, and heading up now through the Rob Slotemacher box once more, and then into Scheerblach. Now pushing incredibly hard. I'm wondering if the tyres are starting to go for some of these drivers here. It's just a case of who can hang on for long enough. Kratochvil trying to maybe get the undercut there at turn 9, not able to. And then once again here, turn 10 now. And again, not quite able to get the position from Walt Graves. Although Graves makes a big mistake at the Hans Ernst box, has to cut through the gravel on the inside, and that's enough for Kratochvil to get back up into 9th place. Graves dropping down to 10th. Battle still raging away here between Rich Jones and BGB British. No sign of any car actually in the pit lane now, so wondering what has happened there. Meanwhile, BGB British trying to find a way past Rich Jones. In terms of best laps on BGB British's best is a 44.8. Rich Jones's best lap is a 45.5. Still a good many a second faster than what my best lap of the race would be. The clock is counting down to 0 now. We're looking at RWB helmet because in the midst of all of this, he has not put a wheel wrong. as he comes through the Hans Ernst box for the final time and is going to, barring a major disaster, given that he has 7 seconds on Clive Britton at the moment, as he comes through the Ari Lyondike box now, is going to claim the victory here at Zandvoort in the final race of the Audi TTRS Coalition Cup. And it's going to be RWB Helmet winning. See Clive Britton flashing his lights there in second place. Unfortunately for Clive, the flashing was caught on camera, but fortunately for Clive, there was absolutely nobody within sight of him. There's Martin Hughes in third place. Now we've got this battle here between Jones, British, Pavlicek, Rigel. They come home 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and in 8th place is Dirk Gretschel, who might well have done enough to claim the championship. Looking at Andre Kratushvili right now, as Graves has in fact actually lost a couple more positions there, as we see John D rounding out the top 10. Then it's going to be Mad out, and then Nigel Wood in 12th. Graves has dropped all manner of positions. In fact, he's actually gone back to the pit, so he must have unfortunately had a technical issue somewhere on the final lap. And Ian Paskin is going to come home in 13th place ahead of Giorgio Minga, and Tug Vertulin in 15th place. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined in the commentary box by RRL's very own Martin Hughes. Good evening, sir.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You?
Yeah, not my favourite track in the world, but an okay result tonight. Wasn't enough for the championship, that had already gone, but yeah, still okay.
Yeah, it was another cracking race indeed, and crying shame that what happened to Pavel Bogdan, as he actually set the fastest lap of the race as well tonight.
Yeah, he was flying in front of me, and we both got past Rich Jones, and I was sort of trying to keep with Pavel as his pace was like really good. And I thought, if I can stay with him, I don't think I'll ever get like past him, but at least I can put him under some kind of pressure. And then literally, poof, he just disappeared in front of me. I was, oh dear, that's a shame, Pavel. Let's go.
Yeah, I think we saw something similar happen to Graves there in quite literally on the last lap, pretty much.
I think he ran out of fuel. What I just heard in the chat he ran out of fuel in the last corner.
Oh, that is such a cruel way to end a race. Although,
yeah, I mean, this one wasn't quite as bad as for fuel saving. I thought it would be when I did the testing, it seemed to be a little bit worse. But I even set up like a splash and dash more pit stop, which I never really do, just so I can go balls out. But I got stuck in so much traffic at the start of the race, and everybody had pace tonight. It wasn't like the front three were pretty quick, but everyone throughout the field were in about a second, and trying to get past somebody around here when you're only a second a lap quicker is really difficult. So that helped me save a bit of fuel at the start and like a push at the end. So, but yeah, I couldn't have caught, obviously, couldn't have caught the front two. Clive's been exceptional all series. I'm surprised I didn't see Radek behind me, but I know he got involved in a few incidents at the start of the race and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm pretty, and it was a great series. So again, thanks to RWB and TSR for joining in. I thought it was a great series, really close, and I think everyone drove really well, and it was a nice series to be involved in.
Yeah, it was cracking fun to commentate on, even though admittedly my commentary involvement was only the second half of the season. It was properly good fun indeed to watch and do the commentary of. So yeah, also, does RRL have any other leagues coming up as well? Could we maybe have maybe another season of the Coalition Cup to come?
Oh, I don't see why not. I think Thursdays is a good day for us. We race on the Sundays normally, so Thursdays is a clear day for most of us. So yeah, I mean, whatever you want to throw at us would be really good. I think it's been nice for different drivers of different communities to all come together. I think we're getting a really good group of people now, especially in Race Room, because not everyone uses Race Room, but I think it's one of the best sims out there. It isn't ACC graphically, we know that, but the racing it provides is really first class. And if you can get your head around the fact it isn't ACC, then I don't know why more people aren't driving it. It's great value and it's great fun.
Absolutely. And also coming up on RWB International this weekend is the Spa 9 Hours, the opening round of the Endurance Championship. And it's a big grid race too, with 82 teams listed on the entry list. I'll be doing the commentary for the entirety of the race along with Red Sky. So that's going to be a good laugh indeed. And of course, my thanks as always to Nate Newcomer for hosting the stream once again tonight. And well, another fantastic season of racing has come to an end in the Audi TT RS Coalition Cup presented by RWB International, RRL and TSR. The next series on Thursday is to be confirmed. The Endurance Championship opener is this weekend. Congratulations to Dirk Gretschel on winning the championship. And as always, it's bye for now.